season, Budgie!
Hey, in this video I'll be reviewing and chatting about the third Moist Von Lipvig novel, Raising Steam, which is obviously a Discworld novel by Terry Pratchett. So, quick spoiler-free review. This is one of Terry Pratchett's best books, in my opinion, like really up there with some of the best stuff he's ever written. It's as good as Going Postal, the first book in the series, and definitely better than Making Money, in my opinion. So in my opinion, it's a really good book. All the stuff you love about Terry Pratchett is there, the comedy, the drama, the setting, the characters, it's all there, and the plot of this book is actually really, really good, which is a criticism I've had of some Pratchett books in the past. So this book is fantastic, like 8.59 out of 10 sort of level, like actually really, really good. So that's a spoiler-free review. So let's jump into some spoilers here. So just to kind of go through each of, I guess, the categories. So characters, once again, your same cast of characters I've discussed in a previous video. Moist Von Lipvig, like confidence trickster, really funny, engaging, interesting. You sort of root for him, even though you know he's not he's a good guy, but not really, mostly a good guy. Vimes, who we've seen in, we see a lot more of him in this book. He's obviously from the City Watch series, obviously a great character I've discussed in my City Watch review. Veterinary takes a slightly bigger role in this, particularly once you know one of the reveals at the end, so just careful, spoilers, obviously, but Veterinary is Stoker Blake, who we see a little bit of, so we get to know Veterinary a bit more throughout the series, throughout this book, sorry. So that's really cool. I love Veterinary as a character. And then Moist Von Lipvig's wife has a couple of cool appearances. She's fun. The dwarf, we get to know quite a bit about the Dwarf King, Rhysson, in this book, which is quite cool. We get a little bit of dwarven politics. I'll get into the politics stuff a bit more towards the end, but so just suffice to say, characters are all great. And if it seems like I'm not going too deep into characters, because I've kind of reviewed them in my previous two videos on the series, so just, check that out if you are curious about the character, what I think of the characters in this book. Setting is really, really good, once again, so we have Ankh-Morpork as a setting for a big part of it, Ankh-Morpork, which is just Terry Pratchett's like fantastical fantasy city, very, very cool, lots of personality, lots of I just feel it's just got a very visceral vibe. You just really feel like you're there and you understand the city, and it's really cool. So that's part of it. And then we also go to a big latter part of this book is set on a train to Uberwald, which is this other faraway area, which also has a really cool feeling. When you're there, you really just... what Terry Pratchett's really good at, I won't go into too many specifics, because actually a lot of stuff that happens in different places in this book. Terry Pratchett, he sort of experimented a little bit here, giving us like sort of flashbacks and stuff. Not sort of flashbacks, what's the word? Like very omniscient perspective, where he shows us different stuff around what's happening. I'm trying to give us, like, I guess, a bit more of a bird's eye perspective of the issue. And it really worked, and he sort of shows off his world a bit, and it's really cool. And all of the settings, they felt very distinctive, and he takes the time to sort of describe them a bit. Like, just as an example, there's one time where he's describing these dwarves crashing a wedding in this place, in this town. And he gives himself maybe less than a paragraph, because I listened to the audiobook, but probably about less than a paragraph to describe this town, right? But he manages to make it like you really understand, you feel like you understand what this place is like. It's like slightly regressive, but everybody kind of keeps to themselves, and actually it kind of makes it a bit more progressive. It's nice, in a nice setting, people are nice to each other, there's different traditions about weddings and stuff, and it's just like, you learn all the stuff about this place in like one paragraph, and it really gives you that really fun feeling that this place is real and distinctive. And even though you're only there for like a literal couple of paragraphs, but Terry Pratchett takes the trouble to really like immerse you there. So setting is great, characters are great, like I said. This one, the plot is much stronger in my opinion. The plot felt much more consequential and impactful. And so the plot of this one is that the plot of this one starts off with just kind of like, trains are cool, let's have fun experimenting with trains and what happens. Well, the start, but it's kind of fun just experimenting with trains, like showing different stuff. Quickly, just back to the character section, Dick Simnel, he's a new character who invented the train, and he's really cool, he's really fun, very technical guy, but also kind of like a little bit emotional. He's just really cool, so another great character. But yeah, anyway, continuing with the plot thing, so first half is experimenting with trains, how cool the trains, and then the second half is that they need to get Rhysson, the Dwarven King, back to his kingdom so he can take it back from some people who have staged a coup against him. And that just really works. It just really feels quite impactful. I've got to get him there in time. So it's one of those plots where it's really distinct. Like, you're in place A, you need to be place B, and this is why. And I feel like that style really, really works. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. So plot was good, characters were good, setting was good. Prose, Terry Pratchett's strong suit in my opinion. Everything he writes is just funny and popping with like pizzazz and interest, and you just really feel like just reading like a paragraph of a Pratchett work, it's Pratchett, and you have fun knowing it's Pratchett, because it's often like you often have a giggle, page to page you're just having a giggle. And so I really enjoyed basically every aspect of this book is just really, really fantastic. But if I were to have some criticisms, I guess I would say that it does sort of suffer from the Terry Pratchett sort of kind of surface level plot kind of issue, where the plot is very basic. But then again, I mean, there's some of the greatest books of all time have very, very basic plots at the surface level. Lord of the Rings, for example, basic plot, just destroy the ring, but it really works. And so it's a bit of an inane criticism. So that's basically it for the review. Like a fantastic book, really good conclusion to the series. And I guess actually my biggest criticism for this is that there's not more. Because this is the last book in the series, unfortunately, which is sad because it's so good. Yes, if it were to be a criticism, is that there's not more of it. But yeah, really good. So that's the end of a review, and I'm just going to kind of just chat about a few things that I like to do, just like in terms of just random stuff that I was thinking while I was reading the story. So one thing is that I find Terry Pratchett's politics quite interesting, because I feel like he might, and whether it's deliberate or not, I'm not entirely sure, but he's kind of making the point of this book that like kingship or dictatorship is okay as long as it's the right person. So, for example, his point is that he doesn't seem to have a problem with that Reese Reason is a king/queen. He doesn't seem to have a problem with that at all. Rather, he has a problem with the fact that Arden wants to be king and he's not making the right choices. So I guess what Terry Pratchett is trying to say is that his personal philosophy would be that it doesn't matter if you're a dictator or a king, but you just got to do it right. Which is an interesting perspective, and one that I vaguely share in what I've done. You might have seen some of my videos discussing that recently. So that's an interesting point. Another thing as well is that the gender politics in this book is kind of interesting, because what Terry Pratchett has done something very unique with dwarves. I'm not sure if it is unique actually, but I've not seen it before, and I think it's really interesting, which is that dwarves are all male, right? So they all present male, but actually half of them are female, like humans, right? And he presents this as something that most of the women or the dwarven females don't actually approve, and they actually do want to present female, and they feel that masculinity has been forced onto them. I think that's just a really interesting idea to explore, which is that is part of gender inclusion, gender diversity, actually allowing gender roles to be there. So if a woman says, I actually want to embrace my gender roles, I want to wear pink and drink cocktails, or if a guy says, actually, I like my gender roles, I want to lift weights and fight people or whatever, right? How much is that actually acceptable, and how much is that actually a good direction for society going? And I'm not going to make any point, agree or disagree with any of this stuff. I just think it's a really interesting idea that Terry Pratchett explores, and I really think it's just I really like how one of the coolest things about fantasy is that you can do whatever you want, right? And so if you want to explore like societal ideas with interesting metaphors, like for example this dwarven thing, then you can, right? And I think it's really cool that Terry Pratchett decided to do that and toss that in as like an extra sort of detail throughout this book. So yeah, just an interesting sort of a caveat or sort of discussion point at the end there. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. It's a fantastic book. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
Season Budgie!